Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the 100. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, once again, we're bouncing all over this time framing stuff like that, because we're going like 3 months earlier, showing us what happened with Hope, Echo, Dioza, and Octavia, kind of with this whole thing, like the training they went through. We kind of got a look at finally understanding what this final war is that humanity's supposed to wage. Not what I thought it was, because I was so curious. I was like, what? I was like, is this going to have something to do with everything that's going down in Sanctum? I still think that might be the twist, but maybe not. I don't know. Because to be fair, once again, we're dealing with time all over the place, because obviously this is before like the Shepherd and everyone got here. The Bardoans were already dead. That doesn't mean, because time is literally different on every damn planet, like when they use the devices. So that could play into it. But nevertheless, basically, we see what happened to Bardo. Bardo is kind of like, looks a lot like Earth, except worse, because like because that's even the thing too, because it's like, the air they would have only been able to survive maybe like an hour or two above surface and stuff like that. So it's like, hey, Gabriel doing what he did actually saved him. Granted, I don't think he had the best of intentions when he did that, but it's like, that's still debatable. Because I just feel like Gabriel's just looking at this from a scientific point of view, trying to like discovery and understanding everything. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is they're seeing like what the aftermath of that, the Bardoans' final war. So whatever they lost to is what humanity's going to have to face next, which I'm like, what the hell is that? They can do that to them. So now they have to now they understand a little bit more what they're fighting, so they're going to have to go through like the training and stuff like that. I love that one of the dudes that they're training with, I forgot his character's name, was it Joseph, I think, from Riverdale, which I'm like, I love that you watch different CW stuff and you're like, oh, this is said actor from so-and-so. It's like, I like that you'll see that from time to time. Or you'll see like actors that say, oh, you're in another show that I think films in Canada. I don't know if you're a Canadian actor, but at the very least, this certain show's filmed in Canada, so there's probably going to be overlap because he's probably like filmed on the same lot or whatever in Vancouver. I'm getting in, like, going to tangents and stuff like that. I do apologize, but it's just so interesting stuff like that. But nevertheless, they're going through the training and stuff like that. But for them, it's, for Anders, it's more about breaking them, because they're in this, their bonds are too strong. I mean, they've literally been too much together. I mean, to be fair, Echo and Octavia definitely have like a long history. But even then, it's like Indra, not Indra, but they spent like the past 5 years together, on penance and everything, Echo and Hope, so there's even deeper bond there. Plus, Octavia and Dioza spent 6 years together, plus Dioza plus her daughter. So it's like there's intermittent relationships, so it's very deep running bonds. But the whole point is to kind of break that bond of like them not being just bound to each other, but bound to the cause. It's kind of put before your personal connections, you got to put the greater good of humanity first, because this isn't just about us. This is about humanity as a whole, our survival. Which is so interesting, because we already know this is also about what Bill wants, and that's whatever it is that Becca saw. He wants access to that. So I'm assuming whatever that is, it's got to be connected to this final war, because it's like we're supposed to win this final war and then get there. So but that's the thing. Why does that correlate? Why is fighting this war connected to getting whatever it is? Because Bill never was able to get to what Becca saw, like, because she's the only one that knows the combinations. That's why he needs Clark and everything. That's what this is all about, because like Clark is supposed to know what Callie knew and everything, right? Once again, I believe Maddie's the one that knows, because he doesn't 100% know how the flame works. So, like I said, it depends on how the records work. I guess the last person they saw with the flame was Clark, because every other recorded history probably doesn't exist after that, because, like, Prime Fire came and, like, destroyed a lot of stuff. So, like, any probably recordings that they might be building this off of no longer exist. That's what I'm thinking. So, like, everything, like, after Prime Fire hit that 5 years, so basically everything from like that end of season 4 till the end of season 5, like none of that's recorded, so they don't know that Clark's not the last one to have the flame. Maddie is. That's the person that I brought this up last episode, but that's you're just reiterating that. But nevertheless, but that's I'm trying to understand. Like, we seem like because that last episode showed that being Bill's ultimate goal is going to wherever the hell it was that Becca was able to go to. So that's why I'm like, what's the correlation there between that war and that place that he's trying to get to? Because even Becca was like, you don't want to go there. It's kind of like basically the end of everything. But that's supposed to be like humanity's final. This is supposed to be humanity's final war. So it has to be connected. Just can't. I don't see, once again, the correlation. But nevertheless, basically they put you through like fear simulations, which is interesting. Like Dioza's was like the baby was taken from her, and Andrew's just like, no, she's not. It won't just be a few eyes watching, it'll be thousands. So you're no longer her mother. She's not just your child. She's our child, essentially. But so Dioza kind of failed that. But it's interesting. Like we learn more and more. Like for example, the weaponry they have, like they have a flamethrower and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting because like Hope is like, what is that? It's like, all right, of course you wouldn't know what a flamethrower is. You know, I'm sure your mom's kept you away from all things like weaponry. I'm sure. I mean, to be fair, you were a little girl at the time. But at the same time, there's the whole situation of, their reproduction process. Like, they kind of, like, test tube babies to a certain extent. Because it's their way of, like, so mothers don't have to be laid out for months and just, like, the process. Which even Dioza's like, oh, doing it like this, not having a baby come out my womb? Oh, hell yeah, I'll sign up for this. Hell yeah. And it's like, yeah, because it's like, Hope, you were kicking me in my kidneys and stuff. So, like, this is actually pretty dope. And it's like, oh, but how many here? Oh, they're 25. Yeah, to replace the disciples you killed. It's like, ooh, that's awkward. But it's like, why not make more at a time? It's like, because for one, you need, it takes a lot of resources. So you need a limited amount. Plus, this also makes it manageable because, like, a few people kind of have to keep their eyes on them eventually before they're old enough to be like, all right, the entire group will kind of look after him. So, like, you kind of have to lay the foundation. And if you have too many screaming babies running around at once, it complicates things, which I guess, like, most of them have done away with that. There was something else I was watching that had talked about that. Was it Future Man I was watching where they talked about, like, people's ways of having babies are way different. I think it is Future Men I'm thinking of. The second time I've mentioned Future Men most recently in something, just comparison and thought, regardless. So it's like, yeah, you guys giving birth the way you do is weird to us as well, Was it Future Man or was it something else I'm thinking of? Yeah, it is. It's totally Future Man because they kind of had a similar thing. I was trying to remember. I couldn't remember for the life of me what it was. It was stuff in the final season. Regardless. I just thought that was kind of an interesting element, just understanding like that's how birthing works for them, and it's just like, oh, like what is considered normal way of like a baby, basically a a bowling ball falling out of your vagina. I said vagina weird. It sounded like I said vagina. Then that so it seems weird to them. So I just think that whole situation interesting. But what was even more interesting was as the episode progresses, is like, it seemed like more so than like the only person not in line with everything is Hope. It becomes so apparent. She's the one that's like, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Why are you guys drinking the Kool-Aid? But at first it seems like this is all part of the plan because it's like you need to bury your emotions so deep they can't find them. But then, like, Echo seems like she's kind of getting into it, but Hope, it's like, you loving this because it gives you an excuse so you have to follow orders again. To be fair, it kind of makes sense because Echo's kind of lost. She fell apart after losing Bellamy because it's just like Bellamy was kind of her second chance. She had, she spent so much of her, especially because of the whole Ash thing. Like, she's not who she is. She killed her friend, took her identity and everything. It was on orders. It was just the way things were. And then she did everything for her queen. So it's a situation of she's lived that life for so long. And then she found a new identity again. And maybe that's an interesting aspect to Echo's, or Ash, is her whole thing is the fact that she's always bouncing from one identity. Her being the spy and everything, she always had to adapt. She always had to be someone new, had to do something, and it was all for the service of someone else. That the whole situation with Bellamy, maybe if you want to, you can make the argument, maybe Echo became who she thought Bellamy would want her to be. Maybe there's a correlation in that. Or it could just be like for the first time she was able to just to be herself around Bellamy, be a better person, not having to be a spy, not having to manipulate someone, just was able to love someone and be loved in return, Because growing up the way she did, that was an effed up version of love, being forced to kill your own friend and everything. So I'm sure that's like probably the last like real relationship she's ever really was able to like concretely made until Bellamy, well, until after the whole complicated thing between her and Bellamy when she ended up betraying him and everything, the whole Mount Weather situation. But regardless, I think it's, I'm curious, like, whether that's really her or not. Then they're going through, like, the simulations and stuff like that. And that's where things get interesting, where it's kind of like she has to kill Hope, and I'm like, oh. And then it turns out to be fake. Hope has the same test, but she fails. And it's actually kind of effed up. I mean, and I guess because Hope was always kind of seen as the weakest link, so they literally used her over and over again in every simulation. What I think is really interesting when you break it down is comparing Echo and Dioza's were same. Throw the knife, went through Hope's neck. Octavia was up front. Hers looked like it was a stab to the stomach. So it looked like it was kind of face to face. It was a little different. But Hope was the only one that failed. Now it's a thing of like, okay, because like the punishment is if you fail, you go to penance. But you go there at different times. So you'll be sitting there to be alone that entire time until you die. All right, you're dead. Okay, now the next person, so on and so forth for every person to fail, which is a very like deep, dark, and effed up way. Like that's the ultimate form of life sentence and being put in solitude. That's the most extreme and more effed up and heartbreaking version of that. But Echo's like, nah, she deserves, like, we need to break her spirits, 5 years on penance. And what I think is interesting is that both, like, Octavia and Dioza are looking at her like, what the hell? Like, their emotions are peering through. So now it becomes a question, like, because it seemed like Echo was really into this. It's like, all right, they had that shooting challenge. She literally knocked everybody out. Because she was like, are these lethal? Knocked everybody out. I thought immediately like, oh, you got rid of them so you could focus. That could be the case. But also I think it's a combination of you don't want to be hearing all that dialogue, so you knocked everybody else out. But also it gave you an opportunity to focus, and it also made it so like they couldn't participate because you got rid of your competition. But, Anders is really impressive because he's like, oh, complete emotional control. That's my point, though. Echo is a spy, so who's this? She knows exactly who she needs to be to fool someone. She might be exactly who Anders needs her to be, so that could be her playing this role. She might be so deep in this that she's fooling Octavia and Dioza too, or maybe she is so lost that she's buying into it. I don't know what to make of that. It could easily. I want to believe it's the former, but it could easily be the latter. And I think that's going to be the beautiful thing of seeing where Echo really is with all this. Does she sip the Kool-Aid, or is she pouring it out, making you think she's drinking it while she's secretly pouring it out? That's the question. So that's definitely an interesting aspect to it, because I think definitely Octavia and Dioza are burying their emotions and stuff like that, because I think especially for Octavia being Blood Rainer for so long, I think kind of almost prepared her for that. Her entire life has kind of sadly prepared her for that, because she always kind of had, she knows what it is to hide. She had to hide who she was, not hide who she was, but hide in general. So that might come a little more natural to her than other people. You need to hide from people. She spent years doing that, hiding, on the ark, so there's that element. And Dioza's kind of a trained soldier, so she might know about keeping her emotions in check. We've seen that from time to time. She's able to just kind of be very cold and calculated sometimes. I should actually talk about it. When she was in the simulation and Hope was taken from her, the person under those wraps, I expected them to reveal the mask and it be McCreary. I swear I thought it was going to be him, but it turned out they didn't make. I thought that's the direction they were going to go with that. Totally didn't end up being that case, but nevertheless. So I'm curious to kind of see where things kind of go. And now, like I said, it's just, once again, this bouncing around is going to be so trippy, all this different time frames, because it's going back that 3 months like that. So there's all of that. Then we got everything in Sanctum. Shit's going bad because Nikki and Nelson have everyone held captive. It's we're going to hold these people hostage and stuff like that. They've even got Mori. So they want Raven. They want Murphy. And, they want Russell there as well. So there's all of that. So now it's a situation of, well, what do we do? Because Jackson's don't do anything stupid. Murphy's he's not about to let the person he cares about die, Obviously, Indra shows up just in time to be yo, we found dead bodies. It's all those other people. It's none of our people. We have no idea where they are. So, because for a second I was where is Raven? I was I'm so stupid. I was right, Raven's with Clark and everything. So they have they can't bring Raven even if they wanted to. So I didn't bat an eye when when Murphy was like, yeah, she's gonna be here in a minute. It's like, oh, what? I'm so stupid. It was literally last episode we saw her too. I'm like, how did I completely and utterly forget? Right, she's on Bordeaux right now with Clark and them. I'm like, I don't know why I completely forgot that, because I'm an idiot. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, okay, so Murphy wants to bring Russell along to at least buy them enough time of everything. Indra's kind of against it, but like Murphy's like, we kind of don't really have any choice. So when the time comes, like Russell's playing coy and everything, which I'm like, oh, you're so full of shit. I'm like, what are you planning? Because we as the audience know you're behind Nelson and Nikki. We know that. They don't correlate that, but they know that. So it is a situation of like, okay, so what's going to happen here? So he presents this plan. He's like, oh yeah, Indra, you can come in through here. I'm like, I don't know. It just seemed like it was all a little too perfect. I'm like, what are you planning, you bastard? And I was like, because I thought like when it was all said and done, I thought he was setting Indra up or something. So I was like, okay, what's going on there? So Murphy kind of comes in and it's like, okay, you kind of have to admit who you really are. And Murphy's like, all right, I'm not Daniel. Omari has to admit who she is. And then, Shade Hader is like, oh yeah, like I'm not him either. The fact of the matter is, Russell was weak, and you believed in him to be some god, and I was so easily able to kill him and wear his flesh. Now, this is something I should also point out. I think it's so interesting. J.R. Bourne, the actor who plays Russell slash Shade Hader, I think it's so interesting. I've never known him to be like playing like. Once again, the thing I best know him from is Papa Argent. Like, yeah, he had his complications, in Teen Wolf, but it's like, he was generally a good guy. He wasn't necessarily scary, to a certain extent. But, so, for me, when it turns into the whole thing of, like, seeing him in this episode, I was like, oh, I think this is the first time, at least, from my limited experience with his work, I'm like, I think this is the first time I've ever seen you play a psychopath. Because he was misguided and, effed up as Russell, but he wasn't the sociopath that he is as Shade Hader. So it's weird seeing like that psycho look in his eyes. It's like, ooh, you're scary. I've never seen him in this role, so it's really interesting to see that. But nevertheless, it's a situation of Murphy's just trying to buy time. So he's like, the one that was responsible, it wasn't Raven's idea, it was mine, and trying to be like, he was a hero. She's like, keep his name out your mouth, because for him it's like, because once again Murphy's like, I'm not the hero, I'm not the playing hero type, so I'm just going to be honest with you, so I'm not doing this to save anybody's life, even though he is. Murphy wants to always give himself, cut himself short of like, because I think for him he's always played the anti-hero. Like some occasions he's been the villain, but he's always been more the anti-hero than just a straight up hero like anyone else. To be fair, like I think everyone at this point in the series is always the anti-hero. No one's like 100%, like, because I don't think there's ever like a purely 100% good hero, at least in the circumstances of this show. Like no one's, because everyone's made mistakes. It's human. Everyone's human. They're flawed. So I think that's always the thing to kind of, I think this show is always a good capture of just like how flawed humans can be. Like humans are just humans. They're going to make mistakes. Going to do stuff that they're going to ultimately regret. They do what they think is best at the time. In the grand scheme of things, I always think that's kind of a fascinating thing about this show. A lot of shows in general, but definitely this show. But the fact of the matter is, luckily Indra shows up in time and everything's got dealt with. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I guess everything's settled. But Indra's like, oh yeah, it's a part of the plan. I'm like, what else is there to the plan? And it's like, all right, everyone bounce. Indra's like, all the faithful stay here. You stay here with now your fake god, but it's making Imori and Murphy leave. So it's like, okay, so what the hell is this all about? And so it is a situation of they're like, oh yeah, you're a false. They manipulated us. And then, like I said, Shade Hader showed his true colors. I was like, oh, what is a shepherd basically without his sheep? And then what is a god without his sheep, and what's a sheep without their god? Like the fact of the matter, and he started getting scared with the candles. He started blowing them out. Hell, at first I was like, are you gonna burn them or something? But he starts blowing them out, and he starts pulling off the candles, and you see like the spikes underneath. You're like, oh, this is gonna get ugly. And Murphy's like, are you sure about this? Indra's like, yeah, I'm killing a demon. Are you okay with that? And they didn't say anything. So he's like, all right, good. But then like Murphy heard like, it should only be one person screaming. We're hearing other voices. He's like, this is what he wanted. They get in there because he accidentally lets it slip. This is what Shade Hader wants. He's like, and the dude's like, Shade Hader. They open the door. He has literally massacred everyone in that room. Meaning all the faithful are dead. It's like, ooh, that's actually sad. And poor lady, because she was at the very end, she was like, oh my god, they're saying all that stuff about you being false, but they don't believe. It's like, even at the very end, she believed, and sadly it cost you your life. So literally all the faithful are dead. All the children luckily survived and everything, but it's like, ooh. And then like some of them are like, because he's like, oh, my fight is just beginning, and the others bow. Some of them don't. I think the ones that are still loyal to Indra. So her plan backfired, because once again, what was the whole thing about Murphy being like, oh, I don't want to play chess? Because that's the problem. Like, Indra tried to play chess with him too, and it's just like, once again, they didn't realize, because we as the audience know, he was behind Nelson and Nikki. They didn't realize they were literally just pawns in his game. Or maybe in the end, this is going to benefit them, because maybe it's like, yeah, we get locked up now, we got taken out of commission, but eventually he's going to come to us. Maybe, but you'll be submitted to him, like, it's hard. Like, I interpreted it as like, oh, I needed you guys to do this, and it put me in a position now one crew is literally under my control, because at least there's people within one crew that were originally his, so he's going to get the rest of one crew in line. You submit or you die, and I'm sure that's going to apply to both, the murderers, the thieves, and everything, like Dioza's former people, or I think it probably applies to the children of Gabriel, Nelson's people. So a lot of elements to that, and I'm like, okay, so I'm really interested to see where all this goes. And once again, I brought it up at the beginning, bring it up here again. What is correlation between what's going down on Sanctum and what's happening on Bardo, like this final war and everything? Like I said, I think it correlates, but maybe it's just kind of like this is its own thing and that's its own thing, but eventually those storylines are going to have to impact. It has to be, because also, like, okay, to not forget, there's also another factor to this whole situation too. Is the fact is that they have that, whatever it is that wiped out Bardo, like, the disciples have some of it, and they're like, the little bit we have is enough to wipe everyone out on Bardo. So I should also note, I meant to bring this up earlier because I thought it was such an interesting repeat of history. Them, like, inside the whole, like, oh, like, burn their oxygen and stuff like that. Like, the moment that popped up, because it didn't correlate in my head to think it was a simulation, but, like, Hope coming on that plan, I was like, that's interesting you would come up with that plan, Hope, because it's almost like history repeating itself, because Octavia, once again, burned the moss and everything that Monty was making in season 5. I was like, that's history repeating itself to a certain extent. I was like, that's interesting. Like, you ought to be one to do that, I mean, granted, any other situation, it ended up being Dioza, and that kind of made sense. I mean, the whole point for that one was because Hope would be the most reluctant, especially if it came to her mom killing her, and everything. So, I just thought that was something I should have brought up earlier, but it clicked in my head. I was like, right, I just thought that was kind of a fascinating thing. Regardless, like I said, I am really, really interested to see where all of this is taking us going forward into the next episode. Really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.